Welcome back to Smarter Storage for Tomorrow's Opportunities, where we're going to dive into what are the essential characteristics of storage that will help organizations manage their way through that AI data tsunami they're experiencing in a resilient, efficient, and easy to use manner. To help me unpack this, I'm joined by Jody Hoagland, who's the Global Technology Evangelist at Dell, and John Lockhausen, who's the Technical Solutions Architect with WWT. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey,
Welcome.
good
Thank
to be
you
here.
for having us.
Thanks.
This segment, we're really going to be focused on intelligent infrastructure and what really drives simplicity and ease of use within that infrastructure. Before we get into the bits and bytes and the storage-specific pieces of it, why is this important in the age of AI? Why is simplicity and efficiency really at the crux of this with AI?
Yeah, I think when you look at what's happening inside of the industry with the speed of change and how fast things are changing, AI is driving architectures, customers to adopt things at a pace. I think it's just strictly unparalleled. That it's unlike anything we've ever seen. That speed of change is driving a lot of complexity. So when customers are saying, okay, well, there's this new technology, well, how do we make all of that work and how do we bring it together? And on top of that, with complexity, you get the resource constraining, that starts to happen. I've been doing this a long time. We've got the different colored hair, the battle scars, but the reality is that system administrators today are not necessarily what they were 20 years ago, where you had dedicated storage administrators, for example. Today, you got men and women that are working in the landscape. They're the network person, they're the compute person, they're the storage person. And so when you go down that stack of the pace of change of AI, driving these customers to do things faster, building in complexity, as a result, trying to figure out, okay, how do we do more with less resources? That really has an effect on IT infrastructure.
Yeah, I would say there's the old thing of fast, cheap, or easy, pick two. Customers are being asked to pick all three. Like AI is not necessarily getting new budgets, so they're having to cut from somewhere. So they need it to cost less. They need it to perform better because AI is driving, it's actually able to use all of the pipes that are being given to it. And nobody has the time to go get PhDs in storage anymore.
What do you see that organizations are doing specifically with respect to their storage infrastructure to kind of respond to this? And what are they looking for?
A lot of customers are looking for intelligence into the environments, into the data, understanding what data is doing what do they need to focus, what do they need to emphasize on. And on top of that, making things simple, making things very easy to use. Again, having someone who has a PhD, you don't talk about short stroking drives anymore, right? So as a result, yeah, right.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So how do we take all of this complexity, leverage the intelligence that technology like AI brings to the table, and how do we use that to create more simplistic, easier to use environments? And I think that's kind of the focus, is driving out the complexity.
So that really has been a theme that we've been hearing around future-proofing and really how it's being built into the storage infrastructure, just, because a lot of people are looking at, if I have future-proof, maybe I have to make trade-offs somewhere else. We were talking, and you brought up the whole concept of the stool, and you can have this, but you can't have that, cheap, easy, quick kind of thing. Is future-proofing the same way? What are you seeing from your customers with that?
Yeah, I would say what our customers are looking for is to not be boxed in. So maybe I start with use case A today. I buy a platform that supports that use case. Down the road, something else comes up. Hey, I'd like to be able to use my existing investment to continue to service more stuff. If I outgrow the performance capabilities of my system, I want to be able to upgrade that, preferably in place, so that I'm not having to pick everything up and go through a months-long migration to move it with outage windows and all the pain that comes with that.
From the Dell perspective, what's being cooked into PowerStore to help with that as well?
It's kind of the core design concepts of PowerStore. So if you rewind the clock, several years ago now, the product's been to life 4.5 years. But I do remember the executive leadership team from Michael Dell, Jeff Clark, talking about PowerStore for this category of storage being the strategic future, not just for Dell Technologies, but for the industry. The reason being is because of the intelligence that we've built into the platform in and of itself. So the platform being able to make smart decisions on behalf of the administrator so that they're not going through these complex decision-making processes of, okay, well, I need to create a volume. Do I create the volume over there? Do I create the volume over here? What if I just create the volume, right? And let the system work it out. So that's, focusing on the intelligence, making the intelligence simple. So just click, click, go kind of scenarios. And that, basically creating an atmosphere to say, you know what, to John's point, hey, I'm investing in a platform that is easily upgradable, it's easily scalable, it's very simple to use and manage, and I can make sure that what I'm investing in today is going to protect me, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
The ecosystem is also changing, and there's a lot of things you have to do that, but starting at the bits and the bytes of being, kind of self-optimized. What is PowerStore doing to really be focused on being self-optimized?
I'll give you some design concepts, and I know John does a lot of this testing and validation in their ATC lab. But when we focus on self-optimization within the platform, there's some key design characteristics that goes into. So, for example, when you talk about data reduction, customers, it's a valuable thing in the all-flash space because if you can reduce it, you can save money, right? So customers want that aspect of saving cash. But you don't have to make decisions on do I turn it on, do I turn it off, do I enable it here, disable it there? It's just always on. So when you talk about the technology itself, whether it's always inline, fully hardware assisted, Intel QAT, right? So we've got hardware offloaded capabilities where there's no performance impact, but also data placement, being able to cluster, put multiple appliances together, manage them from the same pane of glass, from the same interface, being able to say, I just need to create a volume and I want that volume to land where it needs to land, right, without having to make all of these different decisions. So self-optimizing can go through the design principles of the stack, and there's some really cool things we can talk about on the back end, but John, I know you're doing a lot of this in the ATC. How do you see that playing it out with your customers?
For the uninitiated, Worldwide Technology has our Advanced Technology Center. It's 5 physical data centers plus cloud adjacent plus the hyperscalers. And I call it a production test facility. It's nothing but a giant proving ground for our customers to come do things, whether it's storage or servers or networking or even our AI proving ground. And so our customers bring us use cases and we can replicate their environment even down to WAN latency. And we can do the testing for them, and when we do that, we give them a report and they'll get comments on usability. And we've talked to customers who, I don't know if you remember back in the day, we had consolidation platforms because then I had less to manage. Customers have shifted away from that to more of a blast zone mentality, and when they do that, they say, well, we're okay with managing more if it's easier to manage.
That to me is really key because, manageability, because as we said, is that people aren't getting storage PhDs. People aren't, trust me, I go back to the Symmetrixes and other stuff and having, done the CLI and been in that and, had my storage PhD, and I probably would have lost it by now. But, the manageability and intelligent management tools would seem to be really a key to this. And, how does PowerStore really bring that ease of management and those intelligent tools to bear?
There's a few core, I mentioned the design principles earlier, but one of them we call dynamic node affinity. I affectionately call it DNA because I think there's a lot of intelligence and logic built into there. But DNA or dynamic node affinity, imagine, if you would, creating a volume on a dual controller system, which is the premise and foundation of PowerStore. If I'm creating a volume in days past, and even in other vendor technologies today, you have to make a decision. Is that volume going to be connected on this node? Is it going to be connected on this node? What if you didn't have to worry about that at all? And what if in the fact that in real time, as I/O is coming into the infrastructure, if I say as a system, I can guarantee you better performance, lower latency if I just flip this back-end path and nobody cares. What if it did that for you? Well, we've solved the what if, right? So like that's what DNA is actually doing. It's basically guaranteeing to the customer that they're always guaranteed the best optimization, the best performance, and the best balance across the nodes, within the appliance, within the architecture. But then you take that to another level on, everybody's worried about business continuity, disaster recovery. We've seen what's happening with, hurricanes and, things like that, where customers are trying to figure out how do they survive certain scenarios. Well, part of what we've done in the implementation of PowerStore is designed the protection aspect around protection policies. So customers, and you've probably seen this in lab environments where customers will have hundreds or even thousands of volumes and data sets that they're working with. What if I created a policy that created the snapshot schedule, the replication schedule, and not just snapshot and replication, but also fully integrated simultaneous backup integration, right? Click, deploy, go to hundreds or thousands of volumes instantly. That is simplicity, right? That's bringing, that's the rubber meeting the road, so to speak.
I think it also reduces the margin for error if I take the other approach and I say, well, I'm gonna create scripts or whatever for taking snapshots or replicating things, and I'm gonna do it all manually for every volume group or LUN. That's pretty painful, and there's a lot of room for things to go wrong there. A policy is simple. I create it once, the interface is really easy, and then I just go and apply that policy to whatever I need to protect.
Also, people are looking to understand, abstract up. So once you get up above the volume and things like that, and kind of, the AI ops, I guess you could say, kind of scenarios, because I think part of what I've been hearing over the course of the day is, cybersecurity and being able to understand anomalies is one of those things. What else do you see with kind of the AI ops trends?
Yeah, the AI ops industry is really interesting because it is giving customers not just an administrator daily task view, it's giving you that upper level, upper echelon view from an executive perspective as well. So you can rapidly generate, reports on what's happening at the executive level. Hey, my boss's boss is asking for what this looks like. Bam, here you go. Right? But not only that, the security framework, the anomaly detection, security aspects of things. PowerStore, for example, with Dell Technologies, Apex AI Ops, we fully built in and integrated a cybersecurity assessment capability. So we're skimming the NIST.gov database for known CVEs, exploits, and saying, hey, we just detected that there's a known exploit that is open out there in your environment. Here's how you fix it. Here's what you need to do to service that and get rid of that. So we give them a score in doing that. Not only that, we have anomaly detection capabilities. That could be performance-driven or capacity-driven. And here's a real-world example. One of the first attack vectors of ransomware, encrypt, right? Get in and start encrypting data. If you start encrypting data, the data reduction profile is going to change for that data. So now where the system was writing, 1 gig a day, now it's writing 2, 3, 20 gig a day. The variable changes. As a result, that's an anomaly, right? Same for I/O. If somebody kicks off an encryption algorithm or encryption engine on a host that normally runs at 5,000 IOPS and now all of a sudden it's running at 6,000 IOPS, that's a performance anomaly. So being able to detect things, in real time or near real time, and then give the users feedback, given executive level reporting, given visibility of that framework, and then saying, okay, that's the AI ops world, right? But then what about at the array level? We're the only company that I know of that's actually developed and deployed in enterprise storage systems hardware level root of trust, right? So being able to say, hey, when you download the code, now, true story. I had a customer a couple of weeks ago that said, hey, I noticed between this code version and this code version, there's a time factor that seems to have changed. I'm concerned that could this be malicious code? We go back and say, hey, look, no, we have hardware root of trust. You download a digitally signed instance of that software update from Dell Technologies that joins the Intel chipset, creates this hardware level root of trust, guaranteeing the integrity of that code base. So no, there is no malicious code. Now we can we can go investigate what you're seeing, but it's not malicious code, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, and that must, help customers, because it's not just about, the AI ops and the configuration, but things like upgrades and things like that. That must be a lot of where customers are like, we just need this to be simple, and starting with things like upgrades.
Oh my gosh, upgrades have been a pain for a long time. Previously, when they were entirely handled by the vendor, you had to, let's say you had a bug, and you may have a couple weeks before you might be able to get that fixed for all the pre-health checks and all that. Now I can go to a website, I can download it, and I can upload it to the system, and then within a couple hours, I'm out of it. Plus, I could also script all of that so that, there's the code is what's driving the upgrade of the system. So it's completely hands-off, really. It's just single click of a button.
yeah, it's almost like the self-driving vehicle, whether it's the software updates or even the hardware updates, of being able to say, I need a little more performance. John mentioned earlier, swapping those nodes, saying, hey, I want to go from this level of performance to this level of performance. Boom, done. Hey, I actually need the performance of a whole nother array. Being able to drop that in and scale workloads across multiple appliances and get the benefits of multiple arrays, but yet I'm managing them through the same pane of glass, the same interface. I don't have to relearn. Back before, in the days of virtualization, you probably remember everybody talked about storage sprawl. Server sprawl, compute sprawl. Now it's storage sprawl, right? So you've got storage arrays popping up everywhere, where now I could have a cluster and manage those simplistically from the same place. So, the software updates, hardware updates, they're all really streamlined.
Well, I would say even for end of life planning for the system, if for some reason I need to upgrade to something, I need to drop another system and migrate onto it, if I can just bring it into the cluster, pick everything up off of this one and move it over non-disruptively, that gives me months of my life back.
What are customers doing to really simplify and optimize their broader environment in this ecosystem and really tie things together? Because it would seem like there's a lot of different, we had, like you said, compute sprawl, storage sprawl. Now we have API sprawl and things like that. What is Dell really doing with its partners to help with that?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, given that Dell Technologies is a portfolio company, and not just a storage portfolio company, but with compute network capabilities. So we do have a very focused Better Together strategy within our portfolio of data center products. And when you look at what's happening with, say, for example, Smart Fabrics storage software, which is some capability that we have with deploying NVMe TCP environments, which John has had a lot of familiarity with, being able to really automate the process of deploying, zoning, bringing net new hosts into an environment, which used to be a lot of manual time spent on clicking, provisioning, mapping, zoning. That can all be done seamlessly. So whether it's at deploying software capabilities at the networking layer, or even getting into what we're doing with direct backup integration, being able to say, hey, we have this wonderful industry-leading PowerProtect capability with PowerProtect Data Domain and PowerProtect Data Manager in the software stack, but we've built in direct integration from PowerStore to PowerProtect. And at Dell Tech World this year, had several customers come up to me talking about that and said, that's one of the coolest things, those protection policies we mentioned earlier. What if an administrator can just set the policy to say, not only replicate this for business continuity, but also want you to back it up? Or maybe somebody comes down from legal and says, we got to put this on legal hold. Click, and I just say, hey, put a policy wrapper around that I'm going to put that into an archive scenario directly connected, and yet I can put a 70-year retention wrapper around that data. So, looking at it from a software perspective, the backup integration perspective, and then I think as you bring it home, PowerStore, honestly, it kind of ends up being more than a storage array, because we can connect to the backup ecosystem. We can connect 3-tier, to the PowerEdge servers of the world and create these 3-tier contexts for compute, network, and storage. But even the hyper-converged world, the HCI world, the VxRail deployment methodology that Dell Technologies has had out there, industry leader in that arena, there are still, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of those that are there. What if those customers can leverage PowerStore, for their storage and become more agile, more efficient, more expedient with what they're doing? So in any context, right, it's delivering.
And then you also have kind of, the DevOpsy type stuff as well. What are you seeing from that? Because you're seeing a lot of use cases come to you. Things like Terraform and Ansible and a whole bunch of other management features that are out there that
Developer.dell.com.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like, it's all of that is housed in one location for us. So all of that integration with container storage modules, whether Terraform integration, or, I want to do REST API scripts, or, hey, I need to integrate this, into a Kubernetes environment. All of that stuff is there, and I think that's one of the design principles of PowerStore from day one. It was designed to be very open. So whether that's plug-in capable, like that, I met with a customer Monday, said, hey, what about ServiceNow integration? I said, but there's a YouTube video for that, right? So, and guess what? You can search YouTube for ServiceNow and PowerStore, and you'll see it, you'll find it. But all of those things, are kind of centered around developer.dell.com because, to John's point, we are living in an age where everything is changing so rapidly, and going in and clicking through an interface is becoming less and less of a thing. It's, hey, I need to play with all of these different environments, and we don't ever want to touch the storage array. And that's part of the design practice, was that PowerStore would be highly programmable from externalized sources.
Again, all of this is just so key to ease of use and also giving people time back. Like you said, even the auditing stuff, it definitely all ties together, from the manageability down to the optimization inside the actual kit there. So, hey, I want to thank you both for coming on board today. This has been a lot of fun. Time goes quickly here on theCUBE, and you guys were great guests, so thank you for coming on board.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. And thank you for joining us today on Smarter Storage for Tomorrow's Opportunities on theCUBE, the leader in tech news and analysis. Thank you, and see you soon.